Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and do another video for you guys and gals. Sipping my Utopia. I did 3 of these in a row. I just refilled my cup. We were getting low on that last video. Back to one of them I did earlier about the whole bodybuilding thing. I forgot to answer a question someone had that prompted me to make that entire video, so I should probably answer it. They're like, how are you defining? You're saying you're cool with classic bodybuilding, you don't like modern. Where do you draw the line? Okay, and I think I can give a twofold answer to that. When I say I don't like modern bodybuilding, but I'm cool with classic bodybuilding. Like golden era, silver era. I think the golden era physiques look the best. I can give you a cutoff point, and I can tell you specifically what changed. How would I describe the difference timeline and chemically? Golden era we could call insulin-free bodybuilding. Okay? The era where people were not injecting and abusing copious amounts of insulin combined with IGF-1. That is the defining characteristic. Okay? Because they were all on steroids. We know that. All right? Anyone question that Arnold and Franco were using pretty copious amounts of anabolics? We know they were. We even know what their favorites were. All right? It's pretty well known what Arnold's favorites were, and we know what Mike Minzer's favorites were even. It's kind of out there. Do a little digging. Stuff's been discussed for decades. We even know what Lee Haney's favorite was. It's all been discussed by people who knew all these people back in the day. It's all been discussed. We know what they used and what they liked. They all used anabolics. And I would say that is timeline. That's kind of the defining difference would be Lee Haney. So for me, more classic bodybuilding versus modern bodybuilding, the freak show, we could say, did they still have classic aesthetics? Did they look good? In other words, would normal people look at their physiques and say their physique looks impressive, looks good, looks aesthetic, they have a nice shape, even if they say it's a little extreme? People still thought that. All right, you guys remember, you guys all saw Pumping Iron back in the day. He was doing that thing in the prison, or one of the prisoners, there's always been jokes about that. One of the prisoners goes, man, he's got a beautiful body. Okay? All right, that is how you can define it. Did people look at their physiques and say they have a beautiful or an attractive body? Did they have an aesthetic body? Okay? Or do they go, they look like a fucking disgusting freak? I think this is the defining difference. When you show a picture of them at contest time or close to, does a person look at that and say that is an impressive or attractive or aesthetic or beautiful or a well-shaped body? Or do they look at it and go, that is a fucking disgusting, revolting, repugnant freak? Does a woman look at that and go, my vagina just dried up? Ooh, gross. Okay. I think that is how we could define those things. Modern bodybuilding, including in many cases, even the smaller weight class guys, under 200 pounds, the average person looks at the level of shreddedness they're at, not even their size at this point, and they go, that's fucking disgusting. I think that's an important distinction. I mean, can anyone really disagree with that? Does anyone who follows modern bodybuilding look at it because they think they look good, or because it's a freak show? And to be even that striated and as lean as they are, even sometimes the natty guys, it's not attractive to people. Show them Arnold, and it was. Where did that cutoff happen? Lee Haney was probably the last one. Lee Haney was probably the last Mr. Olympia that fell into that category. And I think we can use that. So what's the difference? Either drug-free or steroids versus using a large amounts of other peptides, insulin, IGF-1, insulin being the big one. That's what created the size freaks. They're not that big because of anabolics. In other words, Nobody gets to Ronnie Coleman size from anabolics, no matter how many you take. I don't care how genetically gifted you are. I don't care how hard you train. I don't care how many milligrams you take a week. There is an upper threshold of size limit that the androgen receptor is capable of activating. You can't get to his size. You just don't. It doesn't happen. People hopefully are aware of this. Again, let's come back over to who were the guys who were the really big guys. You start talking Arnold up to about Lee Haney, right? That is roid big. The Dorian Yates and up, that is now insulin. IGF-1 big. Okay, all right, that's now a freak show. I think we can define it there. Also the body fat thing. One thing to be aesthetic, it's one thing to be 8-9% body fat. Deep abs, clearly defined intercostals, all those things, right? It's another thing to be so striated that you look emaciated. And again, granted, we understand that's only at contest time. That's only at contest time. Those guys don't look like the rest of the year. But I think, again, that is another characteristic. Are you at a body fat that you couldn't sustain without massively harming your health for 6 months straight? All right? And I think that is another category where we can define more of classic versus where it's now freakish. Are you having to diet down so lean that you cannot sustain that body fat without major health implications for any period of time? Okay. I think that's another very clear-cut way we can define it. So we can come over and say, this era, this size, this is all good. They look good. Once a bunch of other certain peptides come into the mix and they start getting freakishly big, I'm going to say, no, not interested. I don't think it's something I could support or get behind. Same thing on the level of body fat, or as they're calling it, conditioning. And this is my opinion. If someone asked me, how am I defining it for me saying, hey, what I think is something I could support and be totally cool with and say, that's great, versus where do I draw the line? And I think those lines are very clearly defined. And again, this is purely my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. You don't have to agree with me, because that's how opinions work. But I've been asked, as someone who's an influencer with outreach and a following, well, how am I defining it? Where do I draw the lines? And I wanted to give a pretty comprehensive answer. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.